Hey guys, it's Terry and Tim.
Hello, everybody.
We're here for Money Matters for Everybody. How's it going? Hopefully everybody had a good week. I know, did that pause make you nervous? I'm sorry.
Was I supposed to say something?
No, not at all. So, okay. I mean, you can if you want, absolutely. So I finally got our video posted from last week's money chat. And unfortunately, that was one of the things we had to talk about this week was about money. So last week I wrote a post about us going to the beach. We went to the beach on Sunday.
Very impromptu, unlike us.
Yeah, when you have married, children, routine, structure. I like routine. I don't really like unpredictability or anything like that. I like routine. And so we both woke up last Sunday and just woke up, and I had said something to you about, gosh, I could really use like some salt air, some sea air.
And I struck while the iron was hot.
He did. He totally did. And
I went and gassed up the vehicle so that once we got done church, we were ready to roll.
Right. He was like, we're going. You said it. We're going. And so that's what we did. It was so nice. But en route there, I was actually editing on my Mac Airbook. I was editing a video and I was trying to clean the screen, and the screen cracked. Well, I actually think what completely, like, it may have been cracked before. I didn't realize how fragile the MacBook Air screen is. But I took a little bit of the stuff that I use, the lens cleaner that I use to clean my sunglasses, and voila, like it was like lightning on the screen, done. So that was an expense we had this week. In our episode of talking about what we spent money on this week. I think that was like $428 or $448 to have that repaired.
Right. But because we have our emergency fund, it did not cause panic. It caused a little bit of anger that we had to pay $400 and some to have your screen replaced, but it did not cause panic.
Yeah.
Like it would for if we did not have the emergency fund. Exactly. Or be prepared for rainy days.
So if you have a MacBook Air, let us know in the comments if you had an issue with a cracked screen. And now that they've returned it, I will give Apple that applause. They returned the device. I took it over to the Apple store on Monday, which is about a 20-minute drive away, 25 minutes away. I was able to get an appointment relatively, like, for the same day, because this happened on Sunday. I called them. Actually, I texted them, and I was able to troubleshoot the problem through text messaging with them pretty quickly. I could have sent it in, and I think they said it was going to be $496, and I like balked at that. So I said, you know what, I'll take it into the store. And when I took it into the store, it was $448. I did see that there is a class action lawsuit pending against Apple for a similar issue as this. So I'll kind of stay tuned on that. But that's the one thing with Apple. So I sent it in on Monday and I got it back on
Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you.
They received it. They received it Tuesday.
My Friday.
No, it got shipped out from the store on Tuesday. They received it at the repair center on Wednesday. Within 2 hours, it was being shipped back to us. And you had it back by Thursday midday.
Yep. So big, huge props to Apple for that. Big thumbs down to Apple for making a screen that's not durable. Also in the comments, if you have a MacBook Air and you use a screen protector, happy to hear any comments that you have on what type of screen protector you use. I think that there is a Belkin that Apple provides on their site, and it looks as though it's one that you can actually put on and take off. So I'll probably invest in that. It's like $50. And if that saves my screen, I'll take it. I'm not particularly hard on my equipment. So that was really shocking to me. And is this 3 years old?
Yes.
I got this during the pandemic. I went back to school for my nurse practitioner.
So almost 3 years.
So about 3 years old because I bought it. Yeah. Anyhow. All right. So let's talk about, so that was one of the things we spent money on this week. And outside of that, it's a blur. I don't remember. We went to dinner last night. We saw a car fire. That was pretty interesting. I've never witnessed a car fire up close and personal before. It was not a Tesla, so I will say that. I think it was a Chevy. But it was a reminder that always be alert. And I just wanted to take a second and kind of give a little bit of like, we are believers in this household.
Divine intervention saved us last night.
So we were driving to this restaurant. It's actually the next town over. It's like a main street downtown area. And there's this one parking lot that we park in typically.
Because it's right across from the restaurant we were going
right
to.
across the street from the restaurant. So we went past the parking lot and I looked and it was raining last night. So I wanted to try to get a spot that was close and that parking lot would have been perfect. There was not one spot available in that parking lot. And there was last week.
Yeah.
And there typically is. And we went past it. There wasn't. So we had to turn around, cross traffic, and there were plenty of parking spots on the street. And we took the one closest to the restaurant.
Midway through the meal, people were looking out the window.
Why we couldn't believe it. I've never witnessed a car fire. But I quickly got my kids out of the area because I am terrified of a car turning into a bomb. Was not a Tesla though. I was shocked that it wasn't a Tesla. I'll be honest with you. And the fire station is literally
a block and a half away
from a stone's throw away. So it was actually not a bad, but the flames were really high. That was kind of terrifying. So that's the only other big thing we spent on. Oh, I got a massage this week. That comes out of my HFA. So yeah, so dinner was about $100. We went to a local Thai restaurant. It's our third time since we became aware of them. So our friend that introduced us to them, we're going to have to say thanks, but no thanks. And both my kids, I think Ryan liked it.
Yeah, he did.
I think they liked it. A little bit spicy. They will make it pretty spicy for you. This one was sweating.
I love it spicy, so I always ask for extra spicy, and rarely does it meet expectations. But this restaurant is great.
They really do. I looked at the first time we went in and you asked for spicy. She looked at me and I said, "Make it as spicy as you can." He likes to sweat, and she was like, "Okay." The tom yum soup makes me sweat. So, anyhow, all right. So, what else is going on in the world of money? Anything else you want to share from our homestead that's going on with money?
Nothing else going on around here. Just getting ready for spring and planting season and
kind of putting that into the budget.
New batch of chicks.
They repeated for a couple months ago. So more chick mouths to feed. The little chicks, not the big chicks, the little chicks. So, but if you're paying attention to anything going on in the world with money, it does seem as though there are some interesting things happening. You can easily go out to YouTube or Google and search. But I became aware of a bank failure yesterday. There's a couple things going on, and it just reminded me that these are crazy times. I do follow a couple YouTubers, and I'll be honest with you, half the time I walk away from their channel, I say to you almost always, right? They just fearmonger. And so oftentimes I'll post a comment just to kind of give some like positivity to the situation, to remind people that you have the power to empower yourself. You have the power to fix your situation. You have everything that you need to make things right for yourself and your family. Doesn't matter what Washington's doing. It doesn't matter what the world organizations are doing. There's a lot of fear around that. Like, get your money out of the banks. It's all going to collapse. And honestly, you could take all your money out of the bank. What if your house what if your house catches fire?
Yeah, that'd be even worse.
Your money's going to be, and safes are not rated for fires that are, if your safe is near your firearms. You know what I mean? Like, let's have a little bit of common sense here. So there's a lot of YouTube channels that use fear. We don't do that here. At one point this morning, I was actually writing out what I was going to talk about today, and I was going to say, God doesn't use fear, but then I got this little tap on the shoulder, and I was like, oh, he does use fear for some people. He might use fear to guide you away from a situation that's not intended to do good for you. So that went out the window. I can't say that. So you won't find fear mongering on this channel. We will do our best. You won't find fear. What you will find is hope and inspiration. That it doesn't matter what your backstory is, that moving forward, you have the power to change your story.
Yeah. Anybody can turn into financial success. It's just a matter of learning what needs to be done and doing it.
Being aware, right? I think that's the other thing. Now, the one thing I will say that that I need a lot of work on that is I'm not fear mongering. I don't put the fear. I put the fear of God into our children from time to time if they're not listening.
They need it.
They need it sometimes. I didn't put the fear of God in you. No, I'm just kidding. When you go to Walmart and you spend $8 and you're $8 on, like, you're not getting over that.
Remember when I told you I was in BJ's the other day with TJ and he wanted an extra thing of ice cream.
Not on the list.
Not on the list.
You text her. I didn't even get a text message.
No,
it was nothing.
It was an outright no. You're not getting that extra ice cream.
Yeah, thank you. And I did want to take a step back because I was thinking about that video this week because it literally just went up yesterday because we had the Mac issue. And I thought, you know what? I should probably tell our viewers that for the longest time, early on in our marriage, when we were in debt, there was no extra spending. There was no room for extra spending. We were pretty much at our max, right? Our income was here. Margin. Our expenses were like right matched up to it. Okay. There was no margin.
Sometimes even a little more.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. That hurts, but thank you. Yes. And I remember one Valentine's Day, you had bought me jewelry. I can't remember if it was a necklace or a ring. I don't remember, but I gave it back to you and asked you to take it back.
Yeah.
I don't want jewelry. Don't buy me jewelry when we're in debt. Don't buy me flowers when we're in debt. Now that we're out of debt, like once a month, when we shop at Aldi, like I'm like, oh, they have any pretty flowers? They're $3.99. And the flowers that we got, like they're still a month old. They're just now like I looked at them this morning. I was like, we're probably ready to go into the compost pile.
But if you have an Aldi near you, the flowers there are really good.
They're pretty. They're so pretty. I think they're cheaper than Produce Junction.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is another like a produce outlet here that has flowers. So what was I trying to get at with this? But I think the point of the matter is later on, as we got out of debt and as our income grew, Tim would go to the store and he'd see something and he'd tell me. And then I'd say, why didn't you get it? And he was like,
because it wasn't on the list.
So, and then last week, like we were going through this, like there was some conflict about money, but the reality is that it's just a new expectation that we're both learning, right?
Yeah.
We're both learning. You have a story.
I was so sticking to the list that I even forgot to get the tissues that were told to me as I was leaving the house. Yeah. Hey, we need tissues, but it wasn't on my list. So
what we
forgot about
what we did in this instance, and I've actually somebody from one of our church friends told us they do this as well. You were going to BJ's, which is a local. Well, it's not even local; it's national, right? Wholesale distributor, and I put like 4 things on the cart. We needed they have the really small blueberries, they have strawberries. I can't remember what else was on there.
Ice creams.
Oh, ice creams. You can't. The Wesley, is that who you say at Farms? Their ice cream, their chocolate vanilla is the best. I used to be a Breyers girl, not anymore. $4.99, and you get a whole gallon. Like, I mean, seriously, come on. So anyhow, sent him with the list. Told him as he was walking out the door, hey, I think we need more tissues because we've all had like sinus issues and colds, and we have like 4 boxes left. And he forgot to come home with the tissues. Anyhow. Okay, but back to the topic.
We'll be back in that area.
Yeah, that's fine. It's never that far away. And their chicken is incredible too. You can always feel free to pick up a rotisserie chicken. But again, the purpose for our channel is to educate people, inspire them, give them motivation that you can get out of debt. Your backstory doesn't have to define you. It doesn't matter if you grew up poor. You have the power to change. You have to learn, you have to do the work, and you have to get yourself out of debt. And that's the purpose. The one lesson I think we learned recently is listening. So anytime you listen to a YouTube video or any conversation or you read any article, there's always some nugget of information. There are some weeks where I walk into church and I'm listening to the message and I'm thinking, or I know what the message is going to be, especially when it's a message about money. And I think, oh my God, do I have to do this? Like, I don't want to do this. Do you want to go to breakfast?
I talk about this.
Right. I know. And I won't say that because in case somebody listens, like, as we were in church and our pastor was talking about it, I was like, he really should have had somebody listen to this. You know, you really should have vetted this message. But anyhow, nobody's perfect. But I think the purpose was I totally lost my train of thought.
There's always something that you can learn
in everything. If you're actively engaged in listening and learning, there's always a nugget. So I think the nugget for me this week was diversify your banks. I've not diversified banks. I have one bank, and now I have two.
Forever.
We've been with them forever, and we last month we're looking for a high yield savings account locally, and our bank didn't offer it. So we went to another local bank and we set up a high yield savings, in effect, diversifying our funds. And what does that mean? We made $40 last month on interest.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. And that wasn't the whole month. I think we opened that account like 1 week into the month.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. I'll take it. That's passive income for the win. So that was a really good lesson. Another thing that I spent money on recently, a bathing suit. Summer's coming up. I do like a new bathing suit each year. You know, I'm getting older. I think like small, like I look for a bathing suit that's gonna like protect me a little bit and protect others. So I purchased a bathing suit from Honey Mark. They have these beautiful swim rompers. They're on Instagram. That's where it gets me. The Instagram ads might be the death of me. I'm in my budget. So I had asked him, we each have money in the budget for each other. Like we each get a set amount each month that we can spend on our own now that we're out of debt.
Right.
And I thought for sure that the company was a US based company. So I watched they had a rollout of their new swim line for the year. And unfortunately, I got the bathing, it was a swim romper with pockets, which is so cool. It was made in China. And I was like, what? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I told you, hey, they're made in the US. Right. And you were like, that's cool. That's right up your alley. And it wasn't. So I sent that back, $140. I had to pay for shipping. It was like $11.99 for shipping.
Yeah.
We don't support products made in China to the best of our ability. So I did find another suit, a swim romper at a local company, which I'm so proud of. It's okay to say what state we live in.
Yes, local here in Pennsylvania.
It's in Pennsylvania. It's actually American Suit Company. And this is actually a magic suit because it's a romper with pockets. And so that'll be arriving today. And I contacted them to make sure to ask them where the product was made. I get it. Everybody can't make their products in the US.
Right.
It's apparently a very difficult and competitive and expensive market. I just don't want you making your product in China. That's all. Any questions on that?
No, and then I had a purchase earlier in the month that I'm always looking for, good fitting t-shirts. I have a problem that they're always too short for me. So I decided I would try True Classics. So instead of ordering a whole pack, I ordered one to start to try it, and it didn't fit
according to
their sizing guide. It didn't fit. And then just like her bathing suit, I found out it was made in China, even though I had done research, and it said most of their shirts were made in Vietnam and Indonesia. But these were made in China. So that got sent back, and I had to pay for shipping on that one too. So
yeah, so at least somebody's making some money off of it.
I rented a shirt for a day.
Yeah, but I think the other thing is you bought a similar shirt at Walmart for $6, not made in China. I think it was made in Jordan.
Yeah, I forget exactly where.
And it just is nice quality.
It was a nicer material. It's still not quite as long as I like. So I'm still shopping for t-shirts. So if you have suggestions for t-shirts that are nice fitting in the arms and chest and long enough in the body, please put them in the comments.
Not made in China. And then the only other thing I wanted to talk about was I had recorded a video early on in the channel that I wanted to talk about our journey when we were getting out of debt, like early on in our marriage, up to the point maybe through getting out of debt even, and wanted to talk about what life was like during that time. So I'm actually in the process of writing a book. We are in the process of writing a book, and the book is going to target singles and couples early on, talking about money. But really, it's a lessons learned book, right?
Lessons learned so that people can learn from our journey, mistakes we made, things we learned, so that when you're early on in your dating and married life, you're able to avoid some of the pitfalls, some of the things that we stumbled with when we were younger, and set yourself up to be successful financially right from the get-go. It's better to start strong and build from there than to have to dig yourself out of a hole.
Definitely. And I was actually saying that to TJ this week, and I think taking a step back as well, like, so we learned the lesson. We're in our 40s at this point, and we went from in debt, broke, in debt, paycheck to paycheck, to out of debt, to babysit millionaires in the span of less than 10 years. And it can be done. And there is no greater opportunity than in the country that we live in right now, the United States of America. I don't have any time for anybody, and this is one of my probably weaknesses, right? I don't have time. You sit there and tell me that woe is me, I can't get over myself, like life is too hard. I don't have time for that. You have everything that you need within you, and you have to believe that. So if I have to give you a swift kick in the butt for you to believe that, happy to do that. And I'm raising, did you just nod? I am raising my children the same way, right?
Absolutely.
That don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't worry about what Washington's doing. Worry about what you're doing. How are you doing? What is your plan? What is your purpose? How, what are your dreams? How are you going to get there? Like, you just don't fall through life without a plan. Now, in this particular book, I'm struggling with the topic right now because one of the things that I wrote down as a question is, would I ever advise somebody not to get married because of money? And I think the answer to that absolutely wholeheartedly is probably yes. If you're a saver and your partner is a spender and a reckless spender, and you marry that, right? You got what you got. You're not going to change somebody. So anyhow, so talking about our early, so we're writing a book. I'm about 7 pages in at this point, about 2,000 words in. I don't know if anybody's going to read it, like 1 or 2 people, but it's out there. Have my kids read it. No, maybe I'll become a college professor and have my students all buy it and read it. What do you think?
Assign as a textbook.
It's pretty crazy when instructors did that. I was like, how is this okay?
Here's your textbook written by, oh, it's you.
For that. Okay. So I just paid them like $3,000 for the class, and now I have to pay you. Anyhow, no haters. Please don't hate on that. But so I want to talk about early on in our marriage and what it looked like. And this is not something that I have like a set expectation for. So hopefully there's no embarrassing things that come out of this. No. But let's talk about like,
I mean, I can think back even before we were married, when we were engaged and saving for our wedding. Mm-hmm. We were both working full time. I mean, we were young. We were still in college.
We were young and in love.
We were still in college. I was working full time while attending college. I think you might have been working part time. I don't know I don't remember if you were quite full time yet.
It felt like it.
But I was working a full time job in sales. I was attending college full time, and while we were saving for our wedding, we were also working part-time at a local bed and breakfast, serving breakfast, and eventually I was cooking breakfast. And for a period of time, I was working the night shift at Walmart, unloading the trucks. So
we were young and we had energy back then, remember?
So yeah, I was working 3 jobs at the time while attending school, just to make sure that we were paying, because we were paying for our wedding all on our own. So I had bills to pay, having my own apartment
Car
and
loans
car loan and
and student
school.
loans and school. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And then when we got married, so we never really budgeted, right? We kind of always knew what was coming
Whatever
in.
was coming in was going right back out. So
And then the lesson there is that I wish I was raised to budget, to create a budget. And today it's so easy to create a budget with every dollar.
every dollar
There's a
app is
free
great.
every dollar app. It's so easy to use. And we can be in different locations and plugging stuff into the budget, or as we're spending, you can plug your expense into the budget. There's a tool every dollar that's like not free that'll link to your checking account, and then you can just plug it into your budget. But if we had budgeted, oftentimes this is like one of my I could kick myself moments, because if we had budgeted, I'm pretty sure we would have been millionaires by the time we were probably 30.
Yeah, had we been a little smarter with some of our spending when we were younger.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. So, and then we got married, and then we still have car loans. I think, I was trying to remember, I had my first two cars were Ford Escorts, right? And then I switched over to
You got your
a
Corolla right
Yeah.
before we got married.
Camry, and then Prius. So I've had my cars for like, I had my Prius for 11. I had my Camry for 9. I was just telling TJ yesterday, I'm trying to like get this thing to like as far as it'll go, as long as it doesn't catch on fire. It's not the same battery. It doesn't have the same battery.
I mean, your car's got almost nothing on it mileage wise.
Almost 50.
Yeah, but it's 12 years old.
Yeah.
So
all right, so let's talk about so were you more of a spender or a saver?
I'm generally more of a spender. But I do know when I have been a saver at times when needed, like if I knew something was coming up. And
Yeah, we have a cruise coming up in December, and we need to divide that out from due in September and pop that. So, and I don't know that we did that necessarily formerly back in the day. Sometimes I think by the grace of God, we didn't like get swept under.
And in this society and culture of instant gratification,
Oh yeah,
where you can finance stuff interest free, I think up until
we did a lot of that.
Yeah, up until getting out of debt and taking financial peace a few years ago, I think we almost always had something on an interest-free financing.
That door in the background is part of our debt snowball.
I think that was our last thing that we ever purchased interest-free.
Yeah. I always wanted a door like that. I'll be darned, I was getting it. But I think the point is now I've heard Dave Ramsey say a couple times that rich people ask how much.
Poor people ask how much is the payment.
And it's one of those things I can never unhear, because I want to be a rich person, and not for vanity reasons, right? I want to be a rich person so that I can give back, that I can keep my head up and look around and see needs and fill a need.
Yeah.
I don't want to be so focused inward on myself, on my own messes and my own junk and paying off my own debt, that I can't look up and fill a neighbor's need.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a certain sense of satisfaction when you can pay for something
in cash
outright. Yeah, at the time you're purchasing. I was just making a purchase yesterday, and it gave the option to spread it over 6 payments. Granted, they weren't charging any interest or anything like that, but when you looked at the totals, at least it showed you on the screen side by side the total amount paid. And if you did the installment plan, it was $11 more. It had a processing fee for the payment plan, but because we're in a position where I could pay for it all at once, I paid for it all at once. wouldn't have cost me any interest, but would have cost me $11 in a processing fee to set up the 6-month payments.
That should be a crime. Anyhow, also when you were saying that, it reminded me of something else about, and I completely lost it, so hopefully it'll come back. But I was talking to TJ about, he's driving my little Prius around. He's getting ready for his driver's test. He met his 60 hours this week, but he still has to wait until June because it's a 6-month wait. And he had said, we were talking about a car replacement because I was like, this one's 11 years old now. You know, I'm going to try to keep it as long as possible, but also because I want to pay cash for my next car. And I got into a discussion. I'm not going to say an argument because I don't argue with people anymore. I just say, have a nice day. Like if there's enough, just if you're curious and you want to have an engaging conversation, I'm happy to do so, but I'm not going to sit here and fight with you. It basically told me that you can't buy a car outright with cash.
He went as far as saying the dealership won't allow you to buy a car in cash.
And my response was, I'll let you know because I'll be doing it.
Granted, the dealerships would prefer you finance it because that's where they make their money. A lot of the time is in the financing of the vehicle, not in the actual selling of the vehicle.
Yeah. So I guess I mean, obviously I think I cannot imagine that they wouldn't sell you a car because you're paying cash. But my response back was, I'll let you know because that's the position I will be in. I may be buying cash. So if I have to call Toyota corporate to order my vehicle, I guess I could do that. I guess I'm not a fancy car person. Heard that cars are going to be like pennies on the dollar coming up here. I've heard that real estate is going to be pennies on the dollar. And if you are in a position, I don't know that I believe that. So I'm going to put that out there. So when you hear things, you have a couple options. You can just move it to the trash bin because you don't think it's relevant to you. You can accept it as truth, right? Because it resonates with you and it makes sense. You can go research it. I did a whole lot of researching, especially during the COVID pandemic, because I am a trained nurse and a lot of the crap I was hearing was blatantly false. Blatantly false. Right. Where I was like, that's not how the immune system works. But okay, I guess enough people don't understand how the immune system works. So here we go. All right, so back to the topic of, so early on, did we fight about money?
I don't remember us fighting about money a lot. I remember us fighting about money sometimes when I would
not communicate.
Yeah, not communicate is
that sounds familiar.
That's the general gist of things when we would have conflict. Lack of communication. I think we touched on it on another video where there was a time when you were in school and I was trying to
on the podcast
lighten your load a bit. So I tried to take over the finances and royally screwed it up for a period of time.
Again, no communication, and you felt like I was busy with school and you didn't want to like take, and it was hard. School was that nursing school?
Yeah.
Nursing school was tough. And I felt like that at the end of the day, no secrecy, no hiding spending, right? If you want $100 per spouse per month, or 200 or 300 or 500 for all I care, there's rarely a time when we don't talk to each other about what we're spending. And truthfully, it's in the budget. So if Tim has a couple $100 allocated per month, I can go in and see what he's spending money on.
Which makes Mother's Day and birthdays a little interesting.
I think Rachel Cruz dealt with that recently, and there is a way you can do it. It's like a workaround.
Things might get put in there just with the tag with the title stuff.
Mother's Day, just don't look at the checking account, Carrie. Just leave it alone. I usually actually don't really look at the checking account except for once a month now. At the end of the month, I get paid, and that's when I pay all of our bills and kind of shift stuff around for savings. That I would agree with you. I don't think that we fought very much about money. We were both workers. We were both willing to do whatever it took to get out of debt. We both worked multiple jobs in order to get out of debt. And I think that that might be something that's lacking today. I actually said to you this morning, like, is there a job you wouldn't do? Is there a job that's too far below you that you wouldn't be willing to do to feed your family?
If our family's livelihood, our family's health depended on it, I would do anything it took. I would go
Do anything.
Push a mop, clean toilets.
Anything. Yeah. Yeah. Anything, no matter what it took. So anything. Because that's what you do. You go to work and you take care of your family. You feed your family. That's your first responsibility. There are situations I think out there that are really sad, but I feel like there's very few instances where people can't work. There's always something you can do. All right. So our journey getting out of debt, we talked about how we had a really good friend who helped introduce us. She very gently nudged us, I think, often to introduce us to Dave Ramsey and Total Money Makeover. And then ultimately Dave came to our church. So we were working through our steps of getting out of debt. Getting on a budget was the first step into giving ourselves a raise. When you know what's coming in and what's going out, and then all of a sudden you go, I don't think we had any subscriptions. Like, what can you think of the things that we dropped? Anything that I think we just lowered our food budget because it was embarrassing how much we were spending on food.
Yeah, we stopped eating out as much.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you talked about it in other videos or elsewhere, but some of the things that we did was we switched from a whole life life insurance, whole life insurance policies to term life insurance. And
just pause here. Don't ever do that. Like, always get the term life insurance policy in place before you cancel your whole life. So no financial advice here.
Right.
But this is what we did. And that ultimately freed up, like, we wound up getting paid out like a couple thousand.
Yeah, we were able to take the money that we got from that to snowball and pay other debts.
I mean, it was over 10,000. I remember getting back. Whole life policies don't make sense if you are in the Dave Ramsey plan. Whole life policies, like the amount of money that you put into a whole life policy, if you put that into the market, would have been greater. Now, some people are going to sit there and say, but the market isn't guaranteed. Well, 65 years of experience, if you put that money in, even it would gain more traction than if you had just waited for it to pay out. So there's going to be no argument about that I'm going to be willing to entertain. I will say, always talk to your financial advisor and do what makes sense for you. So in the Ramsey baby steps, you should have insurance 10 times worth of salary.
I mean, most employers offer life insurance. So take whatever they're going to offer you first.
What we did, we have to be very careful not try not to give advice, but what we did,
what we were advised to, and what we've done is we take what they offer.
Right.
We even buy extra through work on top of the separate term policies.
So we're always at about 10 times each of our salaries.
Correct.
In addition to having a policy outside of work. And that wasn't so much cheaper for us per month, though. Overall, it will be. But the purpose here is that when you're getting out of debt and you're building wealth, and you build wealth high enough, you don't need a life insurance policy. You're self-insuring.
Right.
So I think other people might say, but it's just icing on top. I'm not gonna entertain that. Like, if I die today, I want to make sure that my family can put my life insurance policy into the market and get a fair rate of return. And that fair rate of return, if it is the 10%, which historically market average is 10 to 12%, not right now. I get that. I'm not here to argue with that, but my family would get my salary from here into infinity and beyond. Right. And so I want that's my purpose. You want to protect your family. And in 20 years, when that term life insurance policy ends, my fortune should be what they can live on. The interest, should they need to. In 20 years, they should not need to. They should be running a trust or foundation that would be giving the money back into organizations that do God's work.
Yes.
Feed the poor, take care of the poor, take care of every time I turn around, I feel like I get another organization that I'm like, oh, we should give to that. So the organizations that are like near and dear to my heart are organizations that impact women and children. Sorry, men. Not only do you not get a day or a month or a week You also don't get my phone. Maybe we should change that. Okay, next. All right. So you talked about, I was more of a, I don't know, was I more of a spender or saver?
I think you were more of a saver.
I think that you can be a mix too, right? I think we probably had enough of a mix, but I think at the end of the day, when I learned, because change, right? The definition of learning is when you reach the point where your behavior is going to change. That's learning, right? So at the point where I learned, I don't want to live like this. Do you want to live like this? Like, do you want to work for the next 40 years at a 9-to-5 corporate job? This is sucking my soul away. Do you want this? Or do you want a life where we get out of debt, we build wealth, we make it to millionaire status and beyond? I don't think I don't think we have the potential to make billionaire status. I don't know. I'm not gonna completely put it out there, but and I had that conversation with you and said, you basically, the way I got your attention came on was by asking if you wanted to be a millionaire.
Right.
Do you remember that?
I remember the conversation.
Did you feel as though that was even possible?
No, I mean, in my mind, I had a different perception of what a millionaire was and how you had to make tons and tons of money to become a millionaire. But like the Dave Ramsey statistics shows that was teachers and
most people who become millionaires don't even break 100 grand a year, don't even make 6 figures a year.
Yeah, it's just a matter of
what you do,
time
with
and interest,
and how you spend it. Your income is your number one wealth building tool, hands down. Most millionaires didn't inherit their money. Ooh, thank goodness, right? Because I know I was raised poor, and I have a section of the book that I have like a brackets into for you to talk about your upbringing relative to money. And of course we will have our families read that before we put it out there for the world.
Right.
But I also think that it's something that's really important to talk about, like where we came from, what our past was. Like, we weren't raised with a silver spoon. I just recently wrote in there, like, I did chores every weekend. Every Saturday morning was chores. I didn't get paid for them. I got hand-me-down clothes and pasta meals, like, for dinner most nights of the week. That was my payment and a roof over my head. But when you're children, you grow up poor, and now you move into a place of more of abundance. And I'm going to say prosperity, because I do think that we live in a time of prosperity, but you have an obligation to teach your children, because they have a really easy time catching on to your coattails with entitlement. And so that's why it's important. I also talk about parenting money smart kids. That's why I do, because I don't want to raise entitled children. Right. I'm pretty sure you don't either. And there's a whole lot of entitled children out there in this world, and it's scary. Scary. So, all right. So we talked about how we didn't really fight about money, that we were kind of mixed spend savers. I was probably more saver. You were more spender. Getting out of debt, having our children see us get out of debt. We talked about that. I've had TJ on to talk about working for money and spending, saving, giving. And is there anything else you want to talk about, like, as we were getting out of debt?
No.
Maybe the first couple months that we ran through the budget.
Yeah, I mean, just you're getting into the habit of, if you spend it, logging it into the budgeting app so that everything was accounted for. And that took a little bit of time, but eventually got to it. I mean, there's still times now where I hold on to the receipts, and I have a stack. You usually, if it's a bit of a busy weekend or whatnot, I'll just save them, and then
the stack somewhere.
Monday morning, I'll sit down at my desk and
log
them all in. But
whoever spends the money has to log it into the budget. So oftentimes he offers to run an errand to get stuff for the house, and I'll be like, sure, go for it. Cause then you have to log it. Maybe we should change that. The person that you just hand over the receipt and then, but typically if I'm the one that's actually making the purchase, I'll log it in as I'm making the purchase. Like I have my every dollar up, hand my cash, I get the total, I hand my cash over, and then I put it in as I'm doing it. And even with every dollar, even if I can't categorize it at that moment, it just saves it there.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's there next time I open it. Hey, you have this $76 that you didn't categorize. Where do you want it to go? And then I can put it in there. That's cool. Yeah, I oftentimes have talked about how when we first got on a budget, how painful it was, right? I always felt like we were doing well. We didn't need to budget. We didn't deserve to budget. We didn't, it was below us almost, right? We don't have to budget. But the reality is like 93% of millionaires create a budget at this point. That's the reality. So 93% of millionaires budget. You want to be a millionaire? And then giving ourselves the raise the first couple times we budgeted, how painful it was. But in the end, freeing up a couple $100 a month because we realized how much the food budget was costing us, and saying that money could be going to paying off debt and snowballing it over there.
Yeah. And then, once we got to the point where the debt was paid off, that extra couple $100 now gets split up between, going into savings and giving us other buckets. So now we can have a miscellaneous or entertainment bucket. We can now have our own buckets for, if you see something you want, and it's within there, you can get it.
We each have our own spending buckets. And then, we have because our budget said so, budget line item. So the kids, we like doing things as a family each month. So there's a movie coming out. Maybe we want to go to the movie theater. We don't go to the expensive movie theaters. We go to the local, cheaper, $5 a ticket movie theater, where you can get a ticket, a popcorn, and a soda for less than $10 a person. Usually it's like $25 for the four of us to get a huge popcorn. We each get a soda, and then the boys get candy that I steal from. And then what else? I think that's pretty much it. So the purpose of today's video is really just to kind of give you some hope and inspiration that you can get on a budget. You can give yourself a raise by getting on a budget. The first couple months of budgeting are challenging. I'm not going to lie to you, but I've also said that I realized that Tim was on board when the second month I went to load the budget and you had put running shoes in there. I was like, okay, like he learned fast. I think to some extent you were like, oh, I'm getting it in there. I am spending my money. Yes, I'm laying claim to my running shoes. Right. And that you can get on a budget, you can get out of debt, you can put some space between you and mayhem and life, and you can make the government completely irrelevant.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something, me going part-time, one of the first things I said was at least the government will get less of my tax dollars, less tax dollars from me. I don't like what they do in Washington. I don't like the amount of spending that they do. I feel like the amount of spending that they do is counterintuitive to what the founding fathers created our nation for. This country is the land of opportunity. Why do you think so many people want to come here? And yet 50% of the population wants to give it away. They want the government to take care of them. There are so many countries, if you want the government to take care of you, go there. Go to the other countries.
Also take 60% of your paycheck in taxes.
And you won't be safe. I mean, you're not safe right now in this country either. I think that there are some cities where it's like a third world country. I'll be honest with you. Last night when we were outside of that, when we were in that restaurant and that car fire started, I've never been in a country like a war-torn country, but I had a moment of like anxiety. I'm not a very anxious person. I'll be honest, that's another thing. I'm not a very anxious person. There's not a lot of anxiety. I am a project manager type A. So like if there is an issue, we will get to the root of the problem very quickly. We will have a discussion and we will get to the root and we will get to a solution. And if we don't, I will escalate appropriately all the way up to the CEO if I need to. Usually it doesn't have to go that far though, so thankfully. But last night there was a moment of like, because I was looking at that car, the flames were double the height of the car.
Yeah, they were pretty big.
It was an SUV. And there were trees behind it. Now it was raining. So, and it's not dry here. So it's not like we live in California. Like it would be very rare to have a forest fire in our state of Pennsylvania. But I shouldn't say that. Pennsylvania is pretty big.
At least in our area.
At least in our area. But the flames were twice as high, and there were trees. There was like bushes right behind it. And I just looked at the kids and I was like, get in the car. Like, and I even like, so the direction that we were going we would have had to drive by it. And I don't know if you were planning on turning around.
No, I'm planning on going
by it. That is a car bomb. When a car is on fire, you don't know when the flames are going to hit the gas. And when the flames hit the gasoline, that's it. It's game over. So like my youngest thought how cool that was last night. And I was like, how cool would it have been if like even people sitting in the restaurant seemed like, oh, like you feel like the windows are protecting you. If that thing blows up, guess what? Your face won't look the same. Sorry. I have a hard time with like people like not being able to, no judgment. My obligation is to my family, and getting my family away from there and getting them to safety was my number one concern. So I asked you, TJ was going to drive because he needed a couple more minutes to get to his 60. And I said, no, we have an emergency. We have to get away from the area. Dad's driving. And I asked him to make a U-turn and go the opposite direction because if that thing blew, my family needed to be safe. Anyway, is that ending this on too morbid of a note? So I want to encourage you today, like I will every day, that you can get out of debt. You are your first responder when it comes to getting out of debt, getting on a budget, building an emergency fund, building wealth. It's up to you. It's not up to the government. Government doesn't have your back. If you trust the government, good luck. Right? You better take care of you. That's the best thing you can do. So anything else?
No.
Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Go do something to make your situation better this weekend.
Have a good one, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.